So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. No one cares about this phone. Take a guess what this is. Well, if you guessed the iPhone 12 Pro, you'd be right. This is the iPhone 12 Pro in Pacific Blue, and ever since the iPhone 13 Pro has come out, no one talks about this guy no more. I never hear anything. I hardly see any articles. It just has no fanfare, really. I looked through a lot of my comments, and I see a lot of people talking about the 11, 13 Pro Max, the standard 6.1 non-Pro edition devices, and it's basically forgotten about. Now, this phone right here can be found for $700 to still in the 900s, depending on the storage capacity you get. And I think that has a huge reason to do with why it's not got much fanfare. It's a high price, and for good reason. It is a Pro phone with the stainless steel edges, nice triple camera setup, 6.1-inch display. It is a premium feeling phone, but with the Max devices, I feel like people want to just go all out and get a Max device. Then the iPhone 13 Pro comes along, and we have ourselves a better camera system, a better battery life, arguably a better color with the Sierra Blue over the Pacific Blue. You really let me know which one you think is the better look, but I just feel like it's so forgotten. All right, guys, so let's talk the build, the body, the design. It still has the same basic design as the iPhone 13 Pro. Stainless steel edges all around the board, a little bit of a darker, more navy-like blue, and a little bit thinner. It looks slightly thinner just because that camera bump sticks out, and it's just a little bit, less battery size, so that could play into it as well. The camera housing is a little bit smaller for sure. Every generation they're making them cameras look quite a bit bigger, but from the front, it's basically the same. The bottom, it's basically the same. You're essentially getting yourself last year's 13 Pro if you pick up this device. However, it doesn't feel cheap whatsoever with its matte textured glass on the rear. Never gets dirty here. You do get some dirt and some nasty fingerprints around the edges of the stainless steel, though. That is definitely a factor amongst this one, you will notice, but overall it's not bad. Usually have it in a case anyway. I think this might be a better pickup than the iPhone 13. You get a triple camera setup versus that device. You get arguably worse battery life, but you still get the more premium body. So this would be, around the price of a 13-ish, and still going to give you a few things that doesn't give you. So the body, the build, very nice right now. All right, now here's another reason why I think this doesn't have much fanfare: the display. Now, there's nothing wrong with the display. It's an OLED panel, that's for sure. You have that wider notch at this point, but it's because there's so many iPhones now with 6.1-inch displays. This has a 6.1-inch, the 13 has it, the 12 has it, the 11 has it, the 10R has it, there's just so many of them that have this display size and this type. With the OLED, you have the 12, you have this 12 Pro, you have the 13 now, the 13 Pro. There's just so many that it just doesn't stand out. There's nothing super special about it. Yes, it does hit 800 nits, but the new 13 hits 800 nits. The iPhone, 13 Pro hits 1,000 nits. So there's nothing really special about that. OLED's been on iPhone for a while. There's no real draw about the display. It's still a nice 1959, but I feel like with people who want to go all out on the panel, they're going to go for the Max phone if they can handle that size. And if they don't, they're probably just going to get the cheaper iPhone, the standard non-Pro version. But if you still decide to get this phone, you're at least getting a display that matches up with the iPhone 13. Not quite 13 Pro because it doesn't get as bright and it doesn't have 120 Hertz ProMotion, but it's still up there with something like a 13 for sure, or an iPhone 12, something like that. It is a 12 Pro. So keep that in mind, but still trickling down those features into the newer phones makes this not really appealing at this point. 19:9 aspect ratio, nice width though. Next up is the software. Now, again, there's no real draw. There's not a lot of care, for this phone when every other iPhone runs the same software. This is, it's great that Apple does this, but there's no real major feature that gives it a benefit over saving some money and getting, an iPhone 12 or an iPhone 11, or even getting, the iPhone 13 at the same money and having the latest, more modern name to your phone. So there's not a lot of draw here either. It's still going to have many years of updates. And of course, we all know iOS is great. It runs fantastic. It gets bug updates all the time, software updates all the time. You have widget support now, all that good stuff. You can change your pages around. You got a lot of great ecosystem with the iPad and Mac. It's like any other iPhone, but that's just the problem. It's just like any other iPhone. So at the higher price, I'm always going to go back to the price tag because it's a high price tag, even as a used phone. The software is not a draw here. There's no real appeal to that at this current time. Apple doesn't even sell this phone anymore. So they took it out of the lineup, and you can kind of see why. I mean, why would they have the same type of phone in the lineup? But if you're looking for it as a used phone, you still will at least get 4 or 5 years of updates left over. And when it comes to the performance of this phone, this is an area where it's really strong. It does have an Apple A14 Bionic chipset, which means that everything on this phone hums along just fine. It's very good. A15 didn't really step up too much over the A14, I don't feel like, so you have a little bit better benchmark score, but in day-to-day practical usage, no one in their right mind is going to notice the difference. It really is hardly any, if any, at all that is even noticeable. Everything runs snappy and smooth, and one of the benefits over the non-Pro phones is that you do get 6 gigabytes of RAM on here. Now, one thing I want to mention about this is I feel like it's not big enough and the battery's not long enough to appeal to people who want the most out of a phone. There's sacrifices with this one, and that's the problem. That's one of the reasons I feel like no one really talks much or seems to care much about this product here, the iPhone 12 Pro specifically anymore, is because it just, it's a weaker battery compared to even the iPhone 11 Pro, I feel like, and even over the iPhone 13 Pro, it's not even close. It's kind of hard to say like a power user would want this right now, unless you like a smaller phone, you want a discount. If somebody's getting rid of this for nothing, for nothing compared to what the rest of the market is charging for it, it's a deal. But other than that, it's kind of hard to recommend at higher price points. One thing that's good about this phone is it starts with 128 gigs of storage. That is a very good thing about the iPhone 12 Pro. In addition to that, the iPhone 12 Pro can get up to 512 gigs. So, not the highest out there. There's 1 terabyte now for the iPhone 13 Pro, but this is still pretty solid. I think it's enough for most users. Now, one area that's very strong about this phone is the camera setup. We do have a telephoto system, so it can zoom quite far, up to 10x, not bad. It's nothing like other Samsung phones with like 30x zoom, but it's solid. You have your 0.5x, which also works great. In addition to that, 4K 60 video on the front and rear. This does have some pretty good processing with the Smart HDR. In addition to that, this phone doesn't have cinematic video, but I don't really feel like a lot of people use that. I haven't seen hardly any videos with that, unless they were doing like a comparison side by side. I don't see a lot of people posting cinematic videos all over the internet. So I don't feel like I feel like that's more of a feature that an actual pro would use, but they are trying to meet that name of the pro user. And of course, if you get close, there's no macro mode like the iPhone 13 Pro, but the camera itself is still very good. Like there's a lot of people are never going to use this to its full potential, the iPhone 12 Pro. So you can get some amazing results. You can get some video that's pretty incredible on this phone, and people aren't going to say you have bad camera quality. I don't know what the heck happened there. Let's go ahead and take that photo again. A little bug live on camera. I don't know what the heck happened there, but you're not going to have people saying your photos look bad whatsoever. They look fantastic. Video looks fantastic. One area of this phone that wasn't very impressive was its battery life. This one had 5G for the first time on an iPhone. Same with the iPhone 12, but the battery capacity wasn't very large, and Apple went to town with the 13 Pro, really taking it to the next level. They kind of pulled that move where they did with the iPhone 11 Pro and the 10s, where the 11 Pro was so much better than the 10s. They did that here again, where the iPhone 13 Pro is so much better than the 12 Pro. But I still think the average user could easily make it through the day with this. This is a day phone unless you're really heavily using it. The iPhone 13 Pro is a heavy use day phone, so that's kind of the difference. Average to medium heavy use, you can get through the day. So not super impressive, and I think that might lead to why some don't care so much about this at this point. But if you're thinking about buying it, I wouldn't let it sway you away. It's still good enough for the average user to get through their day for sure. Audio quality on this phone was pretty much in line with the iPhone 13 I found in my testing. All these iPhones are quite loud with their stereo speakers, are just fine. Phone call quality and 5G performance also pretty good. This does have Intel modem, so no issues with reception strength, stuff like that. But in conclusion, this phone is just a tough to recommend device due to its sustained high price, when you could still get something like the 13, or you can add a little bit more cash and get the iPhone 13 Pro. If that's still out of your budget though, and you're looking for a used iPhone, you want a Pro-like device, if you could find this like on Swapper or somewhere like eBay, and you could find it on a bid on a low price, and you can get away with this under 600, under 700, which is going to be tough, but if you could find it in those price ranges, then you have yourself a steal of a deal. But if you're paying around 13 Pro prices, it's kind of hard to recommend this. And you kind of see why Apple takes it out of the lineup, because it's not really, smart to have two similar phones at a premium price point that are more premium, which means they're more to cost to manufacture them. So that's why they kind of get rid of last year's model. And I see a lot more people more interested in the 12 Pro Max version of this phone than even the iPhone 12 Pro. If you want it, you can find it again. If you can find it at a good price point, it's still definitely recommended, but don't expect it to be, the best battery life, and don't expect it to be the brightest screen on the market. That would go to the 13 Pro over this one. But the same is going to be said when we go to the iPhone 14 and then the iPhone 15. Every time it's going to get a little bit better, but these older iPhones get cheaper and cheaper, and as the years go on and this starts to decrease in price, then you're looking at a really good deal, because iPhones right now, as they become used iPhones, are going to be really great deals in the future because they're a lot better built than they used to be, and they're a lot more powerful than they used to be. Thumbs up if you found this video helpful, entertaining, informing. Let me know if you have an iPhone 12 Pro or an iPhone 13 Pro or an iPhone 11 Pro, what you feel about this one right here. I'll catch you on the next one. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.